Thank you for coming on. Last time after we had talked, I had a few questions on the 43. What's your 43 we talked about last week? And unfortunately, the questions were, what can I do this year to change my income tax costs, to change the expenses that I have, to change my line 43 for 2017, being there's just a couple of days left to file. And unfortunately, there's nothing that you can do for this year other than contributing to an IRA, which is a very small amount. So knowing your 43 is more going to be for next year, for the end of this year, for 2018. And one thing you want to take note of, after Thanksgiving, you should be planning on what your taxes are going to be for the year. And you should have a very good, very close idea of what your income tax costs are going to be before you even get to the end of the year. So if you're able to make some adjustments before the end of the year and manage those income taxes to keep that line 43 as consistent as possible. Okay, let's talk about today's topic, financial planning for women. 3 ways financial planning is different for women. And I have to tell you, in some areas, we kind of have to tread lightly because of some stereotypes, some habits that we've had. And I want to tell you, our goal, the reason we're doing this, what motivates us is that you are able to enjoy your retirement experience. So please don't be offended. We're trying to help you. We're trying to give you insights. This is for men and for women. Maybe for my case, more so for the men, I would say, but also there's some things in here for women that are extremely important. Many of you know that I do training for financial professionals, and in our business, not very many financial professionals are women. It's under 20% are women, and that doesn't really seem to be changing that much. It's not a business that women come into, and I will tell you, I would strongly encourage, if you're watching this and you're a female and you're thinking about financial services, you have some attributes just by nature. Now, don't be offended because I'm stereotyping here. Just by your nature, you have some attributes that lend itself very well to the financial services business. Now, let's talk about women. There's so many things that I read about how do you deal with women. Women are going to control all the wealth. All these, what do you do? What happens with women that don't want to come to the office? And traditionally, men have handled things. You know, what I've found, there's 3 areas where women, involving women especially, give you a significant advantage. One is their awareness. They just kind of have to have a sixth sense about things where they're able to kind of see things. They're able to kind of perceive things that others are not able to perceive. And this, I'm talking to the men now, having your wife be involved, even if your spouse says, I don't want to be involved, I don't understand any of that, I don't want to know that, you just take care of it. Having her involved, oftentimes she's able to see things, she's able to perceive things about character, about just attributes of the financial professional, whether it be a male or a female, that is able to give you a level of confidence. So don't disregard any aspect of it. Choosing a financial professional and sitting with a financial professional, be a team. Work together and bring both of your strengths. If you don't feel comfortable with finances, and that's sometimes the case with some women, but also in some cases, it's the man that says, you know what, I don't take care of any of it. She takes care of it all. I don't even know. Don't even ask me. And the women really are very, very strong financially. Another aspect is, the second one is being attentive. They are able to listen well. They are able to think well, and they're very much aware of what's happening. Oftentimes, and I'm going to compare men, and I don't mean to bash one way or the other, but oftentimes men have a tendency to go a little bit faster, and women really value going through the process that we encourage to kind of slow things down, to make sure that everything is being understood. And the reason that is so important is when you're meeting with a person that's had a history of financial experiences, of all these different things that have happened, oftentimes when I'm meeting with a husband and wife, or when I'm meeting with a woman that's widowed or something, they are much better able to articulate what's happened, how it's affected them, and why that's important is oftentimes there's things that they want to be able to avoid, that they don't want to have these things happen in the future. So being aware of that as a financial advisor helps you kind of set parameters in different areas where you're able to understand their disposition towards finances. And I kind of hinted on it a little bit, but their ability to articulate, their ability to explain what they're thinking and communicate is extremely important. Oftentimes, again, these are generalizations, so forgive me, oftentimes men, because they have a tendency to feel a sense of pride, they want to be able to say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I get that. Even if you ask them, you say, do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you understand? Say, yeah, I do. Yeah, I get it. Whereas women generally will have a tendency to say, no, I don't. You're going to have to explain that more. Can you simplify that for me? And when you are able to meet with a husband and wife, or when you're able to meet with women, oftentimes it is a much better engagement and a much better level of understanding, because she'll stop you and she'll say, hold on a second, I don't get this. Can you explain this to me? And as you draw that out and as you encourage that, they will explain more and explain more. And this, because in the financial services business, people want to talk about what investments do you have? How much did they earn last year? What are the penalties? What are the fees? All of these things. But true financial advice and true financial planning has so much more to do with understanding the disposition of who you're talking to. What's their financial disposition? What's their history of things that they've experienced, even growing up financially, that causes fear, that causes excitement about money and about retirement? What is it really? And this is our primary goal. This is why we're doing this right now, is so that you are able to enjoy your retirement experience. And when you're sitting with a client or you're sitting with a prospect and you're listening to them and understanding them, now I'm starting to talk to the financial advisors that I train, but this is good for you to listen to as well. When you're sitting there listening and understanding them, you get a good idea of where they're coming from, what's important to them, what they've experienced, and you're able to communicate with them in a very forthright, in a very direct way, and you're able to make sure that you have a fantastic foundation for their own retirement plan. Now, as we're going through these, my first Facebook Live was this week, Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Today, again at 1 o'clock, and I've committed myself to do 6 more every Tuesday and Thursday, to do a total of 8 before I really make any type of an assessment. What this is for is you to be able to interact with me. Type in questions. There's about a 5 to 7 second delay in questions. You type in questions. I will do my best to respond to those, to be able to give you feedback, to be able to give you information, to be able to direct you to a place. If there's things that we need to take offline, I will do that for you. I will do whatever I can to be of benefit to you. Years ago, when I started in the financial services business, I did seminars where people would come to listen to me talk, and it would be a room maybe of 25 or 35 people or something like that, and it would all be face to face. Now we're able to sit here almost face to face, and we're able to talk to anyone across the world. So you're able to come on, ask questions, and the only way people are going to benefit from this, the only way they will benefit from it, is if you share it with others. So you need to have a good experience. You need to think, yeah, this is good stuff. Someone else needs to see this. Share it with them. Let them experience it. And I will tell you, I need your forgiveness in the process, because it's new for me. It's probably new for you too. But let's go through the process and see how it goes. So if there's questions that pop up, oh, okay, live in the evenings. Oh, going live in the evenings. My mother would like to watch us live in the evenings. We are talking about doing one that's going to be live in the evening. We have to pick a time, but if you would, let me know what would be a good time. 7 p.m. or maybe 6:30 p.m., if those would be good times for us to do a chat, and also what topics you would like to cover if we did do a chat at the 6:30 or 7 p.m. Time frame. One thing that I want to talk about next week, I always want to kind of talk about what we plan on talking about because I want to understand your interest. People will say, I don't know, that was kind of nice, whatever. But what I'm going to be talking about next week is 401ks, options that you have with your 401ks. If you've switched jobs or if you haven't, if you're of age, things that you should know with a 401k currently, and also once you're retired, things that you should know with your 401k. And then in addition to that, if you're switching jobs, a lot of times people will take their 401k and they'll roll it over into their new 401k, and we're going to talk about the advantages and also the disadvantages of that. Okay. How can you reduce the risk in market volatility? Very good. So someone wrote in and said, how can you reduce risk during market vulnerability? How can you reduce risk during market vulnerability? That's something that I was asked about as well. Oh, for the 401ks. One thing that's something to note is that since February 1st of this year, the stock market has seen relatively extreme levels of volatility with not a lot of price fluctuation. But what that means is the stock market since January 1st is almost even right now as we speak, with a lot of fluctuations and a lot of increase in volatility. It's almost exactly where it was at the beginning of the year. Why that's important is for about 15 months before that, the stock market was at historic lows in volatility. So the message is, number one, no one knows what's going to happen. And anyone that says they know what's going to happen is only guessing. That's very important to note. The second thing is, when there are higher levels of volatility, which is measured by the VIX, the VIX, if you Google and Yahoo Finance, VIX, you'll see the levels of VIX movement. When the VIX is over 15 for a sustained amount of time, something's getting ready to happen. You could kind of say it the calm before the storm, but really it's something to take note, that just kind of be a little bit more aware. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the 401ks. But as the question was referring to 401ks, how to deal with market vulnerability with your 401k, my thing with the vulnerability in the market in your 401ks has more to do with, number one, your disposition. What does it feel like if you see a significant downturn of 30 or 40%? The second thing is, how long have you been contributing to your 401k? How much have you contributed to your 401k? And how long do you expect to continue contributing to your 401k? So kind of where are you at in the process? And to give an answer to your question, if you have just now started contributing to your 401k, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. Just keep putting money away, keep putting money away. You've heard of the term dollar cost averaging. You can Google that term to find out more about it, or you can ask me further questions about it as well. But you're buying it whatever the rate is at the time. The second thing is, if you have a long time until you're retired, even if you have more than 20 years until you're retired, or even more than 10 years kind of starts to get a little bit close. But if you have 20 years until you're planning on being retired, I wouldn't really worry about it. The thing that you do need to be concerned about is how you're allocated in your 401k, because there's some very efficient index funds that you can purchase that are basically going to ride the market. Then there's some funds that are more, I say aggressive, but there's going to be bigger changes in value, small cap, mid cap, and then also foreign funds that you can be in that you're going to see more fluctuation. And that's going to be more of a bet based on history of typically those do better over time, a bet that that's going to continue. It starts to get into a little bit of an offline discussion because, it's more based on your disposition. Okay, thank you. I'm getting text messages on my phone. personally as well. All right. Well, it's been about 15 minutes. That's a good amount of time. Next week, we're going to talk about 401ks. I really appreciate you joining. And in summary, on women, if you're just now joining, I find in my experience, women add a tremendous value to the interactions that we have because of what they bring to the table, and especially some of those that kind of feel, whether it be through stereotypes that they feel themselves or even just habits that they've had over the years that might have been instilled through their childhood or growing up. But having women in the office, talking with them, they're much better able oftentimes to articulate what's important to them. They have a tendency to communicate very well. They're very attentive. They're very specific. When you ask them the questions that we go through with the process, we're able to have a very good experience together so that you're able to get what you want. Remember, our key is that you enjoy your retirement experience, and the only way to do that is to communicate, have a great solution strategy that meets your objectives. And what this is for, what FundMax is for, is to give you the tools, to give you the ammunition to be able to do just that. I always get confused this, but the upper three dots there, there's something about sharing or sending to others. If you would please share this with others, send it directly to people that you think might benefit from it. I'm most interested in their feedback and what their thoughts are, because this is just kind of us going through right now in beta testing. I want to know what other people think about it, how we're coming across. And you know what? If there's things that I do or say that you think that kind of rubs me the wrong way, it feels a little bit offensive to me, I want you to let me know. Please don't be bashful, because there's going to be plenty of people that will not be bashful at all. I'd rather hear it from you. Thank you so much for coming into this and watching this, and thank you so much for your feedback.